It's 49ers Vikings in week 2. Biggest storylines, what each team needs to do to win on this Locked On Podcast Network Vikings 49ers crossover.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Crossover Thursday here with Locked On 49ers. I am Luke Braun. I do Locked On Vikings here with Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker of Locked On 49ers, talking about the upcoming big test for the Minnesota Vikings as the 49ers try to keep it rolling after absolutely dunking on the Jets in Monday Night Football. This Crossover Thursday episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl and use code all lowercase lockedonnfl to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Starting off here with the 49ers, there are a couple of big questions, and I don't want to waste any time. So, Brian, Eric, what's up? Hello. Is Christian McCaffrey going to play?
No.
Nope. That's it.
Adam Schefter termed it as there's a real chance, I think, that he won't play. So it was almost like a positive,
like a double positive,
positive affirmation that he won't play. It was kind of the way that Adam Schefter put it out there. And the way Kyle Shanahan talked about it, we found out it's Achilles tendonitis is what it is. And Kyle Shanahan said if it was a playoff game in week 1, then Christian McCaffrey probably could have played. So that's where we're at with this. And when you see Jordan Mason run for 147 yards as he did in week 1, there's no reason to push it with Christian McCaffrey. Make sure he's as right as you think he can be before you bring him back, because obviously the 49ers have, no offense to the Minnesota Vikings, the 49ers have a lot bigger things on the docket this season than winning week 2 at Minnesota. And so Christian McCaffrey being healthy in January is more important than him being on the field right now in September.
The tough thing I think for him is it's his Achilles is tagged with this, right? It's been this calf injury. Everyone around the 49ers organization has known that Christian McCaffrey has been dealing with a calf injury since last season. And now once you add the Achilles with that, I think it, causes for a little bit extra precaution. The tough thing with the Achilles, it's not like other things that you could play through. Football players, they play through all type of injuries, being banged up. But once you start hearing the Achilles come into play, you're worried that it potentially may rupture. And I think even with the Achilles tendonitis, that's one thing. Is the tendonitis something that starts with trying to protect itself from something that could be more extreme? So, I think the 49ers definitely would do right by, hey, let's let this thing play out a little bit longer. Let's get you rehab around the clock. If we know anything about Christian McCaffrey, he's definitely someone that's going to prepare to the highest extent with his body. I think this here is something that is a different challenge that he's gone through, but they're taking every precaution to make sure they do it the right way.
And that's my question is it more about if it's like a pain management issue, players will play through that all the time with whatever chemical assistance they allegedly do or do not get. Right. But if they it's I'm trying not to get in trouble. But if it's like more about the risk of it becoming a much more serious and season-ending injury, then it kind of makes no sense at all to put Christian McCaffrey in, especially with what Jordan Mason did on Monday. Like, is that basically the dynamic here where we have to kind of acknowledge this is more than pain management?
Yeah, so that's where you start to get a little worried about how serious this could possibly be, because Christian McCaffrey is not the type of guy to hold himself out. And here's the thing is, and we saw this again on Monday Night Football, Kyle Shanahan will run the heck out of his number one back every single snap. And he did that. He did it for Christian McCaffrey's backup. And if Christian McCaffrey was playing, Jordan Mason wouldn't have sniffed the field. And nobody else sniffed the field with Jordan Mason in there. And he had carried the ball 28
That's crazy.
times.
They didn't committee it at all.
No, not at
Except
all.
for Deebo Samuel. Like, Deebo Samuel was a part of the committee. And now you're opening him up to potentially getting hurt, running Deebo Samuel up the middle 8 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have to save Christian McCaffrey from Kyle Shanahan. And you have to save Christian McCaffrey from himself, because Christian McCaffrey famously will run off the field and hold up his finger saying, I'm going to come off the field for one play. And it's not the coaches saying when Christian McCaffrey comes off the field. It's Christian McCaffrey saying, I'm going to catch my breath. And hey, Jordan Mason, hey, Elijah Mitchell, you get one play, and he trots back on the field. And there's no running backs coach telling Christian McCaffrey when to come on the field, when to go off the field. And so if Christian McCaffrey realizes it was an injury that he shouldn't play through, then I think it's really important that he doesn't play, because when he gets on the field and the medical staff says you're cleared, Kyle Shanahan's going to run him 30 times if if the game plan calls for it.
Yeah, no half measures. It's right. All or nothing.
So
okay, so there's 52 other players on the 49ers. So what else should we as Vikings fans like be aware of? We saw Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl. We're all familiar with Brock Purdy. We all watched this Brandon Ayuk back and forth for months and months. He had a, we'll say, up and down game against the Jets. But what else should I know about the 49ers that I maybe don't know about yet?
I think the 49ers have played so many games on primetime. People kind of know what they're getting. This is a hard-nosed team, kind of a little bit blue-collar, the way they go about their business. They take pride in being kind of the bullies, I guess you could say. They're, was it Michael Parsons famously said, we bully the bullies. And then he still went out there and got bullied. Like the 49ers, they want to bully you. They want to run the ball 40 times a game if they can. And then, of course, they have in, the passing game, a lot of elite weapons or guys that have been, all pro at one time or another at their disposal, whether it's George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, who are both all pro players last year. Then you have Deebo Samuel. He's been an all pro receiver as well. And then you have Trent Williams back. And, we've seen his conditioning take a slight hit when he had to go get an IV during the game, but then he's right back out there. There's so many weapons that it allows Brock Purdy to kind of be, and this gets like a negative tag to it, but a game manager. So we watched the Jets game. It wasn't on Brock Purdy to make all these crazy throws, but hey, just hit the guys that are open. Every once in a while, make a nice throw. Oh man, Brandon Ayuk dropped the ball in the end zone. Doesn't matter. We're going to come right back. And they have so many guys that they've been put in the position to, hey, let's manage this thing and go out there and play good football. And they do that more times than not. It will be on the Vikings to figure out a way to dictate how the 49ers have to play. And the teams that have done that, the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, the Baltimore Ravens on primetime television, they dictated how the 49ers have to play. That's when the 49ers get in trouble.
I think the Vikings kind of did a good job of that last time. And that's maybe the other thing here is I have to imagine there are some players on the 49ers looking for a little bit of get back, because after that game, there was a lot of talk among like the Vikings about like, we heard all week how physical the 49ers were, but we're really proud that we were the more physical team. And I got to feel like the 49ers want to prove that wrong a little bit.
No doubt. And there's a reason that, and look, I don't want to blame Kirk Cousins' Achilles on this, but there's a reason that, and I can't, it was 2 years ago, 0 teams won the week after they played the 49ers. So it's not just the game that you get bullied when you play against the 49ers. Oh, wow. It's what it takes out of you. And
that's crazy.
And I don't know if the Vikings won the week after, but that's
they did actually.
That's what you have to be prepared for. So the Vikings,
Kirk got hurt in that game late, but they actually went to Lambeau and blew out the Packers.
Well, that Vikings are built different.
they were just like very well at that. Yeah.
And again, having Kirk Cousins, right? I felt like Kirk Cousins kind of keeping the defense on their toes. I mean, he played a really good game. He was super efficient. Mm-hmm. He made all the throws. And then when the opportunity presented itself, right? 49ers 0 blitz at the end of the second quarter, kind of wild call. But hey, my guy versus your guy, threw the ball up, gave Jordan Addison an opportunity. He made the play. And it's going to take making plays like that to really keep the 49ers on their toes. Vikings did it a year ago. And you have to kind of follow that same blueprint this week.
And we'll talk a lot more about what the Vikings can do without Kirk Cousins now and how big of a test this is for them coming off of a decisive win in New York. That will come up next. Today's episode of the Locked On Vikings, Locked On 49ers crossover is brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash is an on-demand food delivery platform, and it's the clutchest thing in my life. The season gets so busy for me And it's so hard to like even find just 20 minutes to whip something up in the kitchen. So when I am bogged down in articles and podcasts and just trying to get all of the work done in the fall, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, DoorDash is absolutely the thing on my side. And it helps me find some places near me that I never would have come across otherwise because I just don't drive down that street or whatever. So DoorDash has been able to get me in touch with my community and also just help me get my schedule under control. If you want to use promo code locked on or locked fall 24, you can get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend 15 or more on your first order. Limited time offer, terms apply. Promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now to order your game day favorites. Must be 21 plus to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol available only in select markets. This episode is also brought to you by Hims. Look, I don't know what's going on up top with you fellas, but it's getting a little bit bleak for me, okay? It's starting to happen. And... Yeah, there you go. Crocker's got it. All right, I'm getting to that point in my life where I'm starting to, scratch my head and things come off with it. But it doesn't have to be that way, fellas. With Hims, you can get all kinds of different hair loss prevention products, and it comes in a bunch of different ways. So whatever works with your daily routine, you can get if you want an oral, a spray, a serum, a chewable, whatever it is that works best for you, Hims has available. The process is simple and it's 100% online. Just answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is actually sent directly to your doctor. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedonnfl. That's HIMS.com/lockedonnfl for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/lockedonnfl. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
You know what, fellas? Locked On Thursday always gets me pumped up because it's a reminder that the new week is coming. You got Thursday night football, and then you're into it. You're into a new week of NFL football, and it starts to happen so fast. So much happens throughout the offseason. We're talking about all these storylines, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, boom, another game. You got to get ready, especially for the 49ers. A little bit of a shorter week here because you have the Monday Nighter. All of a sudden, a couple days later, you're on crossover Thursday talking about a new game at the Minnesota Vikings. So, and by the way, thanks everybody for making this your first listen here for Locked On Vikings and Locked On 49ers. We appreciate you. We love you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Luke, talk to me about the leftovers at quarterback from the 49ers that fell off their plate that are now on the roster for the Minnesota Vikings, and Sam Darnold just throwing darts out there. What did he have? One incompletion before halftime, and then we can't go through this podcast without mentioning the guy who's his backup as well.
We got it.
I had to find a way to drop that one in.
Not even drafted.
Did Brett Rippon ever play for the 49ers? Are we 3 for 3?
No, he did not.
No, didn't he? Did he like sniff camp for a minute or something like that?
No, he was with the Broncos.
I thought he sniffed a little
drat.
49ers.
So Sam Darnold was meant to be the bridge to JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy gets hurt. Now it's a Sam Darnold year. And we were told all camp that this was a different Sam Darnold. That it was like such a Dan Hansis trope alert. That's like, oh, he's figured it out this year, guys. Trust us in camp. So it was always like sort of easy to say, well, all right, we'll believe it when we see it. And then we saw it. We saw him play more conservatively. We saw him chilled out a little bit, not try to be the hero, checking down when appropriate, but not so conservative that they just turned him into a run-of-the-mill backup style quarterback. Like he's still testing tight windows on 4 verts and stuff. So we saw this very confident and composed, the word poise came up a lot in the broadcast, version of Sam Darnold that started the game 12 for 12 in completions, engineered a 99.5-yard drive that included a 37-yard bomb to Justin Jefferson on his beautiful corner route. He played a really good game. It wasn't perfect. there were a couple of mistakes. The Giants just weren't really good enough to punish them. And that's kind of the other thing here is like great game, but it was against the Giants who are just completely in an utter like vibes collapse.
Luke, we're going to stop you there because you talked about how it's a different Sam Darnold. But Sam Darnold, that one that we saw last season in training camp and even in, certain times during preseason, he looked good for the 49ers. And a lot of 49ers fans didn't like hearing that. They didn't like hearing that because nobody wants anyone to challenge Brock Purdy. But Sam Darnold in camp, I thought he was really good at different levels, at all levels of the field. He looked confident. He looked like he truly understood what Kyle Shanahan wanted in the offense. When you watch him in preseason, it was a little tougher because now he's with all backups. But
yeah, he's dunking on the twos, like sure, yeah.
Right. For a couple quarters that we got to see in week 18 with him with the starters, he led two touchdown scoring drives and one drive that should have ended in a field goal, but the field goal was missed. So this isn't a guy that like all of a sudden he's found his mojo with Minnesota. I think Minnesota is reaping the benefits of like finally giving him a true opportunity. Unfortunately, because part of it is McCarthy's injury.
Yeah, he would have started anyways. He just wouldn't have played the whole season.
Yeah, but he gets to go out there and kind of be the guy and show like, well, I'm a veteran now. This isn't the same guy that was seeing ghost with Adam Gase out there and not really having a vision for the offense. And I think you're seeing him more confident. And if you have a head coach and play caller who's very confident in him as well, I think now you guys are kind of being able to see that. It's one game, so I don't want to like overhype this guy, but I think we're starting to see more of a trend of some good things from Sam Darnold. So it is cool to see him do those things for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, so that's 2 years that we've been hearing about it, but it's always been in theory. So to see him go out and even against a bad team to just execute properly was really like, oh, okay, they weren't lying to us. This wasn't just PR. But actually, like if you asked him or if you asked Kevin O'Connell, they'd probably say the same thing. He would say like, yeah, no, being with the 49ers, being with Kyle Shanahan kind of was this like level up moment for him. And I think also just being like a designated backup and not like being in competition for the job and just kind of having a year to like reflect on everything and sort of let all those lessons that he learned from all those mistakes with the Jets and Panthers like soak in. It was just like a perfect environment for him to like sort of decompress, regroup, and with the culture and the coaching that you guys have over there in San Francisco to really grow into a new version of himself. So we're all excited to see what he's going to do. Also, we love Nick Mullins over here. Nick Mullins, 1,000 years, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I'll take 1,000,000 games of that. I love it. It's wild. But otherwise, we've had a suffocating performance from Brian Flores' defense. In particular, an interior D-line group that was much maligned coming in, had a great day against a maligned Giants interior offensive line. So a big test here is the 49ers up front and being able to deal with schematically what Kyle Shanahan does in the pass game, and particularly what he does to counter the blitz. Flores wasn't quite, I mean, he was still very aggressive. It was like a 30-40% blitz rate, but it wasn't the 60, the 80 that you would see sometimes last year. So it was a little bit more normal. Like normal aggressive instead of psychotic aggressive. And it worked really well. Totally suffocating, kept the Giants out of the end zone, had guys in the backfield every play. They just extended Harrison Phillips. So the vibes are on the moon here in Minnesota right now, but tough team coming to town. That's I guess where the narrative lies right now is, okay, we smoked a bad team, but this is really the test.
Yeah, it's a huge test up front too, because the 49ers won both lines of scrimmage, which is kind of the undertold story of the Monday Night Football game against the New York Jets, and not only winning,
that's blocking to do that too.
Yeah, and not only winning blocking assignments in the run game, but then you have on Jordan Mason's touchdown run, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle both had pancake blocks. So it's not just the line, it's everybody blocking, and it creates big plays. And there was a Jordan Mason touchdown run called back where Deebo Samuel was wrongfully called for a hold where he's blocking down the field and making the last block. So like it's all 11 guys, and then you mentioned blitzing, trying to get pressure on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's superpower is how good he is against pressure and against the blitz and getting the ball out quick and where it needs to go. And then when you blitz, then there's more space for the guys to run after the catch, like Deebo Samuel too. So it is a tough challenge for this team, and where those matchups lie. And by the way, look, the 49ers might be without Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Mason has a higher career yards per carry than Christian McCaffrey does. And we saw what he did on Monday Night Football. He's a really good player. So it's not like you get a day off because Christian McCaffrey's out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Jordan Mason develop here. And it has nothing to do with fantasy football, I promise. So let's try to figure out what's going to happen here. And try to figure out exactly like keys to the game and predictions. If we're into that, that'll be next. This crossover Thursday episode on the Locked On Podcast Network is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel has right now, I believe, the 49ers at 6.5 point favorites. Last time I checked on FanDuel. So if you want to go lay down a buck or two on that, or maybe even 5 of them, you can do that on any game or anything you find on FanDuel. Through September 22nd, if you do that, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday's game. All of the Sunday, September 15th pregame money line bets. Profit Boost will be live starting today, Thursday, the 12th. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. So you can go, if you think the Vikings will pull off the upset, you can go hit that money line with that Double Your Winnings Profit Boost. So go check that out in your account page and visit FanDuel.com and to download America's #1 sportsbook. Brian, Croc, what's going to happen? What is this game going to come down to? Let's put it that way.
I think the tough thing is, you see Minnesota, and obviously it's a team that had, a down year. You dealt with some injuries last year, but they were able to beat the 49ers. And I remember going into that game, 49ers were rolling at the time, and they had a couple losses there to the Cleveland Browns. You had, lost to Cincinnati. Then you play the Vikings. It's like, oh, this is the game you get back on track. And it's like, nope, you're actually going to lose this game too. So I don't think the 49ers can go into this game and puff their chest out. You're traveling across country. You're going to a different time zone. You're playing in someone else's house, a house that has a really good home field environment. For me, I'm looking to see how the 49ers come out on the first drive, because if you watch the 49ers, really even their first couple of drives in the last game, 3 and out on the first drive against the Jets. All right, okay, let's get in the groove. And then the next drive, Fred Warner punched the ball out, forces a fumble. Then what do 49ers do? They go 3 and out again and have to kick a field goal. I don't think that they can have that same kind of slow start this week on the road, because unlike being in the Bay Area in Santa Clara, you got the fans behind you, you got the crowd behind you. So even during that time where it's a little low, the energy is still high. You don't want the energy to flip to the Minnesota Vikings. And one thing my coach used to tell us about is false confidence. You don't want to give a team that is the underdog, which home dogs in this game from Minnesota. You're the underdogs. But you start letting them hang around a little bit. They start getting that confidence. Like, wait a minute, they bleed like us. And then that's when you get in trouble. So the 49ers, I think for them, one of the keys is they have to start fast.
There's a streak. I'm sure the 49ers are aware of this, but do you guys know the last time the 49ers won a football game in Minnesota?
1987.
You're close. 92.
That's when I was born.
I went as far back as I could.
Yeah, 92.
Wow.
I think 87. That was the Anthony Carter year, the crazy the strike year with that crazy Anthony Carter upset, and then the 49ers dunked on the Vikings the next 2 years in the playoffs, like out of spite. But 1992, 7 straight games in Minnesota, 49ers Vikings games, and the Vikings have won all of them, regardless of how good those teams are. One of those weird history streaks. And hey, different story when the Vikings travel to San Francisco. But I have to imagine that there's an awareness there and that kind of like, we got to end this kind of deal. I think it'll come down to what it came down to last time, which is who is more physical. And there's a reason that everybody expected that to be the 49ers last time, and the Vikings kind of pulled it off. And maybe there is a confidence of like, hey, you know, these guys aren't so scary. We did them last year. It's the same group up front for the Vikings. Save the left guard. It's Blake Brandel now instead of Ezra Cleveland, and he, by the way, had a pretty good game on in his debut. So that feels like a group that is going to walk in with some confidence, and if that confidence can survive through like the first quarter, if they can, you know, go through and like have a nice solid start without immediately giving up a ridiculous sack to Nick Bosa or whatever, then you can get into the rhythm of the game and we can kind of have a game here. But the thing about the Vikings is they haven't really, they turned the ball over twice. So they haven't really gotten turnovers out of everybody's head here in Minnesota. So I have to say, you got to not turn the ball over. That's what killed them last year so many times. And it would have killed them again this time if the Giants weren't a pile of rubble right now.
That's still the question I have with Sam Darnold too, because I think he's a much better player, and clearly he's much better coach the last couple of years than he was to start his NFL career. But how clearly does he see the field at all times? The first throw he actually made as a 49er, he threw it directly into the chest of the other team. And it was, Sam Darnold, there he is. But then, then he looked a lot better. His actually go back, because everyone talks about, he was really good at the end of his Carolina career, that last year. Go back and watch the end of his last game in Carolina, one of the worst turnovers you'll ever see.
Yeah.
And so does
better. The two turnovers were not his fault. One was a fumble after the catch by the fullback CJ Ham, and the other one was he was trying to hit Justin Jefferson on a double move for like a one-on-one ball, and Dexter Lawrence just smoked the center and hit him as he threw it. It kind of flipped up. Super not his fault either. So yeah, he was very safe with it and turned down some, like, there were some throws on that tape where you're like, maybe you could hit that. And he turned down all of those. So he's playing a very conservative brand of football for him, but they've found a way to kind of get that mentality in him, but still push the ball downfield sometimes.
Yeah. And that's smart. And I do like what the Vikings have on offense, and obviously the best wide receiver, maybe second best wide receiver in the NFL, depending on how you feel about Tyreek Hill. And so, there's a lot of talent there. And I think that's going to be where this game is won and lost. Can the 49ers get that weird Sam Darnold turnover? Can they, force the Vikings into those third and long situations? And the 49ers were really, they didn't actually even pressure Aaron Rodgers all that much. I think he got hit once or twice in the game. Leonard Floyd got a sack, but the 49ers were really good against the run. Breece Hall had a 116-yard run, and then it was like 2 yards per carry otherwise.
That's going to be tough. And right. Aaron Jones is the one guy I haven't brought up yet who seems to have unlocked a little bit more of a run game here. He almost got 100 yards in the Giants game, and on like 19 carries. Like he had like 6 or 7 yards per carry. It was a great run game. So again, like a big test. Because, I mean, like, that Giants D-line is a good D-line. That's Dexter Lawrence, Thibodeau, Brian Burns. Like, that's some good players, and to run on that is an accomplishment. But like you said, like, the 49ers run defense and winning in the trenches is how they have existed since Kyle Shanahan got there. Like, that has been the bread and butter. I have one more question for you. I don't know about predictions. I don't think I can pick the Vikings for this one. I think that's too much of a homer thing. So if you want to predict, then go ahead. But one question I didn't get to ask: who's the best player on the 49ers defense?
So we've had a lot of these.
I see why he asked that. Okay, because you got Fred Warner and Nick Bosa.
Yeah. Well, like, Nick Bosa feels like the chalk answer, but does anybody have the hot take that it's Fred Warner?
Fred Warner is the heart and soul of the defense.
Yeah.
Like, he's the heart and soul, and he's the guy.
I think he's the best in the league. Like,
I think because of how he plays. Anytime you watch the 49ers, you will 1,000% notice 54.
He's everywhere.
He's flying around. He's jumping over people. He's celebrating. Dreads flying everywhere. Like, there's no way you could watch a 49ers defense and not notice 54. But Nick Bosa, he's damn good. Of course. I mean, this is a guy that won Defensive Player of the Year. had a slow start to last year after holding out. I think he does a lot of the dirty work, and he's just a quiet person. And I think he kind of flies under the radar. So when he's generating a lot of pressure, taking on doubles, splitting nose, you just kind of don't notice it. I don't know if it's something about his demeanor. He off the field, he's really kind of quiet and reserved, kind of stays to himself. But when I say stays to himself, I mean just like, him and his brother, they go to like this Bosa chamber and work out like in Florida. Like he's just kind of his like away. So I don't know. Like with the 49ers defense, who's the best player? I do think it's the easiest thing to say is, Nick Bosa, but Fred Warner is the leader of the defense. That's without a doubt.
No doubt. And like if I was drafting 49ers, I would take Nick Bosa probably over every player on the team. But a lot of that is positional value too.
Sure.
Fred Warner is unbelievable, and he's so important and so impactful in so many ways and what they're able to do in coverage with their linebacker. And so many teams nowadays take advantage over the middle of the field, and it's harder to do that against the 49ers because of Fred Warner's out there. But we're being disrespectful to Diamador Lenore, who is the secret superstar in the San Francisco 49ers.
Yes.
Keep your eye on number 2 out there, Vikings fans.
I've been watching his contract, waiting for it to expire so that I can pine for him in free agency.
I know. Hey,
did you guys see what he said about really earning a spot on the 49ers and who it was that not only gave him the confidence, but who it was that where he challenged himself against this player to get in the good graces with the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan? It was none other than Justin Jefferson. When they had the joint practices, he said, I feel like I'm on that cutting block. I can't make the team. I might get cut. I need to challenge myself in a different way while we're out here in these joint practices. I'm going to follow 18 around. So whether he won a rep or lost a rep, he competed his tail off. And I think that earned him the respect of a lot of people that make big decisions for the 49ers.
That's so sick. Okay, so score predictions I think are lame. But what do you think will be the headline coming out of this game? Like, what will be the cold open on Locked On 49ers after this game that is the main point that we all come out with it?
Oh, man. Sam Darnold threw 6 interceptions in the San Francisco 49ers defeat the Minnesota Vikings 47-3.
We hope.
Yeah. I feel like I'm gonna be saying one turnover too many. But I don't know if it's going to be on Darnold or not. It just feels like this team still has that bozo in it.
Look, the Vikings are already in a place where I think it's house money a lot. Like I'm sure Vikings fans have bigger expectations than maybe people on the outside looking in. It's frustrating that you don't get to develop your young quarterback. But
but like what happens next year is already kind of set in stone. So yeah, it does feel like we're just sort of like waiting for him to come back.
Yeah, and
he goes down with an injury.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, because now you're going to get the number 1 overall pick, and you get to pair another very talented player with him. Like that's what we're hearing, and then you win a game, and it's like, wait a minute, how many more of these can we win?
And
maybe sports is about trying to win. Maybe
you realize there's a floor too. Like you have enough good players, and there's a floor when you're a well-coached team, and the organization's put together in a way where you're not going to collapse like that. And you're going to be in it, and you get some good quarterback play from a veteran quarterback, and you realize, all right, cool. And if you get your future long-term quarterback in on top of it, and you keep adding players, you're going to still remain a really good team and a really good program. So all of those things are so important. I think it might be a rough one. The 49ers are favored for a reason. Maybe if you're picking against the spread, it makes things a little more. I think it was 6. Niners are favored by 6 in a road, 6 on the road. It's a good home dog bet for the Vikings to be competitive and keep it within a touchdown. That's not a terrible bet. I do like the 49ers in this one, though.
Check that out on FanDuel. And after you're done here, check out Locked On NFL. They got 2 a day now on Locked On NFL with Tyler Rowland, the crazy man, in the mornings. You can find me there on Wednesdays, and you can also find in the evening a chill vibe with Tony Wiggins at the barbershop. For Locked On 49ers and Locked On Vikings, this has been Crossover Thursday. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen, and we'll see you all tomorrow.